The sun was setting over the dusty main street of Copper Ridge, Texas, in the autumn of 1884, when Jacob Thornton first saw the little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with tangled blonde hair that hung in matted strands around her small face and a complexion smudged with layers of dirt that suggested she hadn't had a proper bath in weeks. She stood outside the general store with a small, battered wooden box positioned in front of her bare feet, calling out in a thin, desperate voice that cracked with exhaustion. "Please, sir, would you buy this ring? It's real gold. I promise you it is. My mama needs food. We need food. Please, won't someone help us?" Jacob was 32 years old, successful cattle rancher who had built his considerable fortune through years of relentless hard work, smart business decisions, and shrewd investments. He had ridden into town that afternoon to conduct some routine banking business and purchase supplies for his ranch. He normally didn't involve himself in the desperate affairs of strangers. The frontier was absolutely full of hard luck, stories, and people looking for handouts. Something about this particular child stopped him dead in his tracks and wouldn't let him simply walk past. He dismounted from his horse and approached her slowly so as not to frighten her. "What's your name, little one?" "Lily, sir. Lily Parker." The girl held up a delicate gold ring with a small but genuine ruby set in the center. Her small hands were shaking visibly, whether from fear or hunger or cold. Jacob couldn't tell. "This was my mama's wedding ring from when she married my papa. It's all we have left to sell. Everything else is gone. Please buy it, mister. We haven't eaten anything in 3 whole days." Jacob carefully took the ring from her trembling hand and examined it closely in the fading light. It was indeed real gold, well crafted by a skilled jeweler. It's probably worth about $50. Very significant sum of money. The ruby was small but genuine. This had been a cherished possession, not something cheap or fake. "Where's your mother right now?" "At our camp just outside of town, sir. She's too sick to walk into town herself. She's been real sick for days now. She sent me to try to sell the ring because she can't do it herself." Tears started running down the little girl's dirty cheeks, leaving clean tracks through the grime. "Please, mister, I don't want my mama to die. I'm real scared she's going to die if we don't get help soon." "Take me to her right now," Jacob said firmly, his voice leaving no room for argument. Lily led him through the streets and to the very edge of town where a ramshackle, patched tent was set up under a large cottonwood tree. Inside the inadequate shelter, a woman lay on a single thin blanket spread over the bare ground, her face deathly pale and drawn with obvious illness and malnutrition. She couldn't have been more than 28 years old, though severe hardship had aged her prematurely, adding lines around her eyes and mouth that shouldn't have been there yet. When she saw Jacob standing there with her daughter, she struggled with visible effort to sit up. "Lily, who is this man? What did I tell you about talking to strangers?" "It's not safe, sweetheart. I'm Jacob Thornton, ma'am. Your daughter was trying to sell your wedding ring on the street. She says you haven't eaten in 3 days and that you're very ill." The woman's face flushed with deep shame and humiliation. "We've had some significant difficulties recently. My husband died 6 months ago. Cholera took him, and most of our meager savings went to doctors who couldn't save him despite their best efforts. I've been trying desperately to find work, any kind of work, but no one wants to hire a widow with a small child. They say I'm unreliable, that I'll be distracted. And then I got sick myself. ... She started coughing violently, a deep, rattling cough that worried Jacob considerably. This woman needed immediate medical attention, proper medicine, nutritious food, and decent shelter, not necessarily in that order, but all urgently. "What's your name?" Jacob asked gently, kneeling down to her level. "Catherine. Catherine Parker. And I'm sorry about Lily bothering people on the street." I didn't know what else to do. Jacob made a decision that would change all their lives. "Mrs. Parker, I'm going to help you and your daughter. Not out of pity or charity, but because I genuinely believe in giving good people a real chance when they need it. Let me explain my offer clearly so you understand. He positioned himself so he was at eye level with both Catherine and Lily, wanting them to see his sincerity. I own a large, successful ranch about 5 miles from here. I have a small but well-built cabin on my property that's currently sitting empty. It was originally constructed for a foreman I was planning to hire, but that arrangement fell through. You and Lily can live there rent-free. In exchange, I'd like you to help manage my household. My current housekeeper, Mrs. Martinez, is getting too old for all the physical work, and I need someone capable who can cook proper meals, clean and organize, and help with basic ranch administration and record keeping. Catherine stared at him in complete disbelief, her mouth opening but no words coming out for several seconds. Sir, I don't understand at all. You don't know us. We're complete strangers. Why would you offer something like this? Because your daughter was willing to sell her mother's wedding ring to feed you, Jacob said, simply and honestly. That kind of love and fierce loyalty is genuinely rare and precious. And because you're clearly a woman who's fallen on desperately hard times through absolutely no fault of your own, everyone deserves a real chance to get back on their feet with dignity. I can provide that chance, but the ring is valuable. Keep the ring, Jacob said firmly, pressing it back into Catherine's thin hand and closing her fingers around it. A wedding ring shouldn't ever be sold for food or out of desperation. It should be kept as a precious memory of love and better times. He stood up decisively. Now, here's what we're going to do immediately. I'm going to take you both to Dr. Harrison first, get you properly checked out, and get whatever medicine you need. Then we're going to the general store to get you decent food and proper supplies. Then we're going to my ranch so you can rest. Do you accept my offer? Catherine's eyes filled with tears that spilled down her hollow cheeks. Yes, of course. Thank you so much. I don't know how we could ever repay such extraordinary kindness. You can repay it by getting well and by continuing to raise that remarkable daughter of yours to be as brave and loving as she already is, Jacob said. Within an hour, Catherine had been thoroughly examined by the doctor, who diagnosed severe exhaustion, dangerous malnutrition, and a serious respiratory infection, but assured them she would make a complete recovery with proper rest, adequate nutrition, and appropriate medical care. Jacob bought enough supplies to completely fill his wagon: food, medicine, blankets, clothes, everything they could possibly need, and, as the sun set completely, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, they made their way slowly to his ranch. The cabin was small, but extremely well built, with 2 separate rooms for privacy, a large stone fireplace that would provide ample heat, and a solid roof that didn't leak. Catherine looked around in absolute wonder, touching the walls as if she couldn't believe they were real. This is really ours. We can actually stay here. It's yours for as long as you need it, whether that's months or years, Jacob confirmed. Tomorrow, after you've had a chance to rest properly, I'll show you the main house and explain your duties in detail. But for tonight, just rest, eat, and don't worry about anything. Little Lily tugged insistently on Jacob's sleeve with her small hand. Mr. Thornton, are you an angel sent from heaven? Jacob laughed, the first genuine, heartfelt laugh he'd had in months. No, Lily, I'm just a man who remembers what it's like to have nothing and no one to help. As he walked back to his main house in the darkness, his elderly housekeeper, Mrs. Martinez, met him at the door with a knowing expression. So, the rumors spreading through town are already true. You've taken in a destitute widow and her child. I've hired a new household manager who will start once she's recovered her health. Jacob corrected, though he was smiling. Mrs. Martinez smiled knowingly, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening. You're a good man, Jacob Thornton. Your sainted mother would be very proud of you. Over the following weeks, Catherine recovered her strength steadily with proper food, rest, and medical care. The color returned to her cheeks, the hollows under her eyes filled in, and she began to look like the vital young woman she actually was. She proved to be everything Jacob had hoped for and more, incredibly organized, remarkably efficient, and surprisingly knowledgeable about practical ranch management. Her late husband had been a ranch hand for many years, and she had absorbed a great deal of practical knowledge during their marriage. But more than just her competence and efficiency, Jacob found himself increasingly drawn to her quiet dignity and inner strength. Despite everything she had endured, the loss of her husband, the poverty, the desperate struggle to survive, Catherine maintained her grace and her fierce determination to provide for her daughter. She never complained about her circumstances, never asked for more than was offered, and worked harder and more diligently than anyone he had ever hired. Lily absolutely blossomed on the ranch like a flower, finally given water and sunlight. She helped her mother with household tasks, played enthusiastically with the ranch dogs, and followed Jacob around devotedly whenever he would allow it. She had a completely natural way with horses that genuinely impressed him, and he started teaching her to ride properly. One evening, about 2 months after they had first arrived, Jacob was working on ranch accounts in his study when Catherine knocked hesitantly on the door. "Mr. Thornton, may I speak with you privately?" "Of course, Catherine. Please come in." Catherine entered the room, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I wanted to thank you again for absolutely everything you've done for us. You've literally given us our lives back. But I also need to be completely honest with you about something that's been weighing on me." Jacob set down his pen, concerned. "What is it? Is something wrong?" "The ring," Catherine said, quietly. "The wedding ring that Lily was trying to sell. I've been thinking about it constantly. It represents my marriage to James, yes, but it also represents my old life, a life that's gone forever. I want to sell it now, properly, at a fair price, and use the money to pay you back for the doctor's fees, the supplies, everything you've spent on us." "Absolutely not," Jacob said firmly, standing up. "Catherine, I told you to keep that ring. I meant every word. Well, it's not right for us to take so much and give nothing of real value in return." Jacob walked around his desk to stand closer to her. "You've given me far more than you realize. This ranch has been financially successful, but emotionally empty for years. You and Lily have brought real life to it, genuine warmth and purpose. That's worth more than any ring, any amount of money." He paused, then decided to be completely honest with her. "Catherine, I need to tell you something about my past. When I was 10 years old, my father died suddenly. My mother tried desperately to keep our small farm going, but she couldn't manage it alone. The work was too much. We lost everything. A wealthy rancher in our area could have easily helped us. We literally begged him for work or assistance, but he turned us away coldly. He said we were not his problem or responsibility." Jacob's voice grew thick with suppressed emotion. "We ended up living in a tent, very much like the one I found you in. My mother tried to sell her wedding ring to feed us. A kind merchant in town bought it for far more than it was actually worth and secretly used the money to help us get a new start. That merchant died before I was old enough to properly repay him. So I swore to myself that if I ever had the means, I would help others the way he once helped us." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "I had absolutely no idea. You never said anything. When I saw Lily trying to sell your ring on that street, I saw myself at 10 years old, desperate, scared, trying to save my mother. I couldn't walk away. I absolutely wouldn't." Catherine took a step closer to him, her voice soft. "You're a truly remarkable man, Jacob Thornton. I'm just trying to be the person someone once was for me," Jacob said, quietly. Over the following months, Jacob and Catherine grew steadily closer. They began taking their meals together regularly, talking long into the evenings about everything from ranch business to books they'd read to their hopes and fears for the future. Lily called Jacob Uncle Jacob at first, and then, eventually, just Jacob with the easy, trusting affection of a child who felt completely safe and deeply loved. A full year after Catherine and Lily had come to the ranch, Jacob asked Catherine to take a walk with him one evening. They strolled together to a hill overlooking the property as the sun set in spectacular fashion. "Catherine, I need to ask you something very important," Jacob began, his heart pounding. "What is it?" "When I brought you here a year ago, I told you it was a business arrangement, a practical solution for both of us. But it hasn't felt like business for a very long time. Catherine, I've fallen completely in love with your strength and resilience, your kindness, your determination, with the way you've made this ranch feel like a true home, with how you've raised Lily to be brave and kind and loving. I love you deeply, and I love your daughter as if she were my own. I want you both to stay forever, not as my employees, but as my family." Catherine's breath caught audibly. "Jacob, I'm asking you to marry me," Jacob said, "not out of obligation or gratitude on either side, but because I genuinely cannot imagine my life without you in it, because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Catherine smiled through her tears, her face radiant. "I love you too. I have for months now, but I was so afraid to say it. Afraid you'd think I was just grateful or trying to secure our position here. And now I know this is absolutely real. Yes, Jacob, yes, I'll marry you with all my heart." They married in the spring, with Lily serving proudly as their flower girl. At the ceremony, Jacob gave Catherine a beautiful new ring, but he specifically asked her to keep her first wedding ring as well. "James was Lily's father," Jacob said. "He'll always be an important part of your history, part of what made you who you are. I'm not trying to erase that or replace him. I'm just adding to your story." Catherine held both rings carefully, old and new. "James would have liked you tremendously. He would have been grateful that you took care of us when we had no one." "I didn't just take care of you," Jacob said seriously. "You saved me too. You gave me purpose and love and family. You gave me everything that truly matters in this life." Years later, when Lily was a grown woman with children of her own, she would tell them the story of the day she tried to sell her mother's wedding ring. "I was only 6 years old and absolutely desperate," she would say. "I stood on that dusty street begging strangers to buy our last valuable possession. And then a man stopped. But he didn't buy the ring like I expected. He bought us a future instead." Grandpa Jacob saw a little girl trying to save her mother and decided to save both of us. She would continue, her voice full of emotion. "He gave us a cabin, yes, but so much more than that. He gave us dignity, opportunity, hope, and eventually, a real family," Catherine would add, holding Jacob's weathered hand. "Your grandfather could have just given us money or bought the ring and felt he'd done his good deed. But instead, he gave us a genuine chance to rebuild our lives with purpose and pride intact. That's the profound difference between mere charity and real, transformative kindness." Jacob would smile and say, "I gave you a cabin and a job. You gave me a reason to come home every single day, a reason to build something meaningful. I think I definitely got the better deal, 'cause sometimes the most valuable thing you can give someone isn't money or possessions. It's opportunity, dignity, and genuine belief in their ability to rebuild their lives." Sometimes, seeing a child try to sacrifice something precious out of love reminds you of your own humanity and obligations. And sometimes, a business arrangement becomes the foundation for a family that was always meant to be, just waiting for the right moment to come together. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of unexpected kindness, second chances, and families built on dignity and love. Comment below about what this story meant to you. Thank you for listening and for believing in the power of seeing potential in desperate moments.